New York Times. Head of president of Egypt calls for calm as protests grow. Says they're being funded by the West. No kidding. Israeli leader makes case against Iran on U.S. TV. All of this is designed. Stir the Arabs up, put al-Qaeda in, get a civil war between Shiite and Sunni going. Just tell the American people, hey, that's al-Qaeda, that's Iran. When Iran's the opposite of al-Qaeda, they're Shiite. And then say we got to attack Syria and Iran because al-Qaeda is there. And it is true al-Qaeda's in Syria. They're in the news. I'll dig it out of the stack saying we got to have boots on the ground. Let's cover that first briefly with Webster Tarpley. Then we'll get into the economics. Then we'll tie it all together. But Webster, I understand you were on yesterday and privately told me, yes, we've never been in a greater danger of an Iran attack, first Syria, World War III. But you said, I don't want to really go there because this is being used for political stuff. Let's just be honest, geopolitically, in a brief summation, tying it all together up front, what are we facing right now? How dangerous is this period in the world? What is the overall, in just 2 minutes, method to the mega banks, Anglo-American system program? What is the end game? What do they think they're going to get out of this?
Well, naturally, the war danger has been high and remains high, and I think it focuses in particular on Syria. The Syrian civil war. I guess by now it is a civil war, or really more of an invasion by these al-Qaeda death squads.
Yeah, proxy NATO al-Qaeda destabilization, asymmetrical special forces attack program.
Right. This looks very much like the Spanish Civil War, right? The Spanish Civil War of 1936 to 1939. Was the beginning of a clash between Nazi Germany, fascist Italy supporting Franco and his fascists, and then there was the Spanish Republic, which was supported by the Soviets and some others. And you could see that was a kind of a prelude to World War II. And the Spanish Civil War ended in March of 1939, and then World War II began pretty much in September. So the danger is that. However, let's also take a step back. I looked at that article in the Daily Telegraph, and I just had to laugh. When you see a headline that says, British Armada, oh, the British Armada, the massive British naval power in the Gulf. Well, this is a bad joke. The British Armada hasn't been sailing for quite a few centuries, probably World War II.
Probably the point is they massed ships before Gulf I and II. This has been done before.
That's fine. On the other hand, this is ironic. This is a scheduled exercise. This is a drill. Now, nobody knows better than I do that drills go live. On the other hand, the majority of drills do not go live, right? The majority of drills are drills. It's the one that comes along every now and then that goes live that is the one that you have to worry about. But anyway, we have to look at capabilities, right? You can't worry about intentions. You have to look at capabilities. And the capabilities for war are certainly there. It seems to me, again, that this focuses more on Syria in the immediate sense than it does on Iran. If you're going to start a war with Iran, and I think the imperialist planners have seen this for quite a while, you've got to eliminate Syria above all, because Syria is a principal ally, really the only ally of Iran in the Arab world. And you've got to do something about Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is sitting there very close to Israel, and they have built up a tremendous capability with various kinds of missiles, right? They have the sort of World War II type missiles, but now they've got some pretty
you got to cut off Hezbollah's supply lines from Iran through Syria.
So I think it's less likely that there's going to be a direct attack on Iran until they have been thoroughly isolated, and whether that works or not is now the big question. So it seems to me there's a lot of psychological warfare, and we can't always be preaching, the end of the world for next week. This doesn't work. I would be a little bit skeptical about this hype that we see in the London Daily Telegraph and elsewhere. Because, again, it seems to me that
Webster, let me stop you on that. It was in 2006 or 7 that I disagreed with you when you said the Iran war was on, and I said it wasn't. We had a big fight over that, and I said it wasn't on at that time. You do remember that, correct?
Yes, and I'll tell you what stopped it then was when Putin made his trip to Tehran and got photographed with Ahmadinejad.
Okay, so exactly. So my point is we have stopped this from happening. We have stopped this from happening.
We have done something.
Well, no, the American people,
No, the Russian government, Putin. The main person, the biggest factor for peace in today's world is Putin, and there's no other way to cut it. And don't be embarrassed to say so. You don't have to have provisos about not liking Putin. Like him or hate him, Putin is the big factor for peace because he's the only one who deters the Anglo-Americans. He provides cover for the Chinese, and he allows these other countries to sort of follow along and build up.
Sure, and we all know why Putin's involved, because the road to Moscow goes through Damascus and Tehran. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com, None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. By the way, Dr. Tarpley is a doctor of history. He's an author, researcher. He has an incredible mind. I'm not trying to get in a fight with him here as we went to break. Saying, he's like, hey, let's not say, we're going to have end of the world. I'm not saying that. Then I'm like, hey, Webster, you thought back, what was in 2007 that it was imminent going to happen. And it was. And I see the same parallels, but then some. You've got open talk of the Japanese and China heading towards war, says U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. Regardless, that's an amazing headline. You've got Chinese leaders disappearing. You've got coups going on. Zero Hedge has an excellent article we've got up at Infowars.com, A World on the Verge. And I'm going to cover this a little bit in the next segment before we get into the economics here. My point is, Webster, the average American isn't even paying attention to what's going on to the point of thinking, oh, we've got to give our rights up Al-Qaeda. And I'm just pointing out Al-Qaeda is this jihadi brigade of the globalist. And I know, of course, you've helped expose that for decades. So I'm just trying to understand here what is going on. I mean, tell us what you think's happening militarily. I mean, are you saying we shouldn't be concerned?
Yes, you have to be concerned. But again, I think it's important to restate the framework also for your radio listeners who might not have heard the conversation yesterday. I would say this is the Romney campaign. In other words, if you want to know who's blowing up the Middle East right now, the Romney campaign is doing that. And the Romney campaign means not some little group of people in Boston who put out press releases and schedule campaign events, but it means this complex of forces, in particular in the intelligence community, that want Romney in and Obama out. And that seems to be the majority of the, or at least the most active part of the intelligence community. It goes to this CIA Mormon mafia. There's a CIA Mormon mafia, an FBI Mormon mafia. The CIA Mormon mafia would come into it in the following way. The ambassador in Libya, who happened to be at the consulate in Benghazi, or actually at a safe house attached to the consulate in Benghazi, was killed by this group called Ansar al-Sharia, as far as can be told. So Ansar al-Sharia is just the Libyan Islamic fighting group, or Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, under a new name. And the head of that is this guy, Kumu. And I wrote about Kumu a year and a half ago. Kumu was part of the Islamic Emirate of Derna. In other words, a terrorist principality that had been created by this guy, Hassidi Belhaj. All these guys have multiple names. The groups have multiple names. You have to get used to this. They're all moving targets. But this Kumu appears to have given the order, or actually carried it out himself, so that his professionally trained veterans who have been fighting in Libya, a lot of them have been fighting in Syria, they went and killed Ambassador Stevens, not even at the consulate, as I understand it, but at this nearby safe house. Now, Kumu was in Guantanamo for 5 years. He was trained. He was prepared for his new career. The only way you get out of Guantanamo is if you swear that you're going to do what the CIA tells you to do from then on for the rest of your life. And that's what Kumu undoubtedly did.
No, I mean, they've had suicide bombers, everything. They come out of there. They admittedly have a CIA base within the base where they engage, this is even mainstream news, in mind control, drugging. They've got drugs where they can stop your heart and then sit there and have you beg. Well, I mean, just incredible what they do.
Right. So if Kumu kills Ambassador Stevens, the question has to go to the CIA, and I would say in particular to the CIA Mormon Mafia, the people in the CIA who feel that their careers will be favored by Romney, and they will, because there will be unbelievable Mormon nepotism.
Look, I got to say this, Webster. I want to get into the economy. We covered this for half an hour yesterday. That's fine to get into the Mormon Mafia, all this other stuff. But we've already said it.
But this who's doing it.
No,
that's who's doing
I know we covered it yesterday. I want to get into the economy when we come back. But here's the deal. You were against Obama. Now you're against Romney. How can it's all
I'm
run
against the ruling class. I'm against the ruling class and their main line. Now, here's the other problem we have. If you want to take power, you need to have a political movement, an independent political movement with a program to take power. If you're not ready to take power, you're automatically reduced to trying to maneuver between 2 or 3 or whatever they are existing alternatives. So we needed to be building an independent alternative over the last couple of years.
That didn't happen.
And it didn't happen. So now we're reduced again to trying to see which is the more dangerous. I would say Romney is the more dangerous at this point simply because he's surrounded by these neocons.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
We're going back to Webster Tarpley here in just a moment. As you notice, the real world is not just some simple thing of, here's the brown-skinned Muslims, let's nuke them and we'll be safe. And here's the blue-shirted TSA man that's going to take your son or daughter behind closed doors to make sure bin Laden isn't hiding in their underwear. Or, oh, the FBI's watching you with face-scanning cameras. The ruling system wants an authoritarian takeover. They are waging war against small farms, businesses, everything. Bad guys run things. And playing into this whole deal of who's better or who's worse, I'm not doing it. But I think it's important to analyze the different camps to discredit that system so that people understand what we're facing. Okay, I just wanted to read a few of these headlines before we go back to Webster and he can get into Tarpley. I mean, Tarpley can get into Mitt Romney and what he thinks about that. Even though we covered it yesterday, that's fine. Different audience will cover that. And then we'll get into what I got him on about, the economy and where he sees that going. But world on the verge of war. We've got South Africa shooting people with rubber bullets at miners. We've got Spain, Greece, Portugal have resumed protesting austerity. People are looting grocery stores in Spain. U.S. embassies have been attacked in Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, Sudan, Lebanon, India, Bangladesh, Indonesia. Pakistan's got different facilities being attacked. Japan is appropriating Chinese contested islands, provoking a firestorm of retaliation, including demands for war with Japan. The Japanese ambassador to China dies mysteriously. Netanyahu's telling Meet the Press Iran will make a nuke in 7 months and must be stopped beforehand. Warships from 25 countries, including the United States, Britain, France, Saudi Arabia, UAE, are launching a military exercise, Strait of Hormuz, pre-planned. We got this whole thing's pre-planned. A third U.S. aircraft carrier, the CVN-74 Stennis carrier, is en route to Iran with ETA of about 10 days. And finally, a potential catalyst to light the whole mess on fire, Iran's Revolutionary Guard announcing that troops are now on the ground in Syria. Tell us something we don't know. And it goes on and on. That's on Infowars.com. A war on the verge in the Middle East? A world on the verge of war? That's the question. All right, Tarpley, you got the floor until we end this hour. Take it away with Romney and what you really think's happening. I respect your view. Doesn't mean I totally agree with it, but it may be the case. The system's certainly starting to turn against Obama at certain levels. And, in the media, normally that's lapdog is like really grilling him on these ridiculous statements that, that a few protesters killed the ambassador and the Navy SEALs. Ambassador Susan Rice, Libya attack not premeditated. What does that mean? Why does the system want Romney in your view? And then please give us your breakdown on where the world financial system is right now and where you see QE going in the future.
Well, the Wall Street establishment, it seems, wants Romney. He's one of them, after all. He's a hedge fund hyena. He's a corporate raider. He's a vulture capitalist, and he's the kind of guy that will not only give them what they want in terms of loot, which Obama has largely done, but he'll also give them the honor in society that Obama can't give them because it would screw up Obama's relations with his own base. They generally object to Obama not so much for what he does, but for what he says, right? Obama's got to cover his left flank by bad-mouthing Wall Street, and they don't want that anymore. They want everything. They want the loot and the honor. They want to be hailed as the saviors of the country. So we've gone through, I think, that without the CIA and without that CIA Mormon mafia, I would strongly guess, you couldn't have Kumu and that group of, let's say, Guantanamo trainees coming to kill the ambassador Stevens in Benghazi. Notice that the extreme reactionaries and neocons are now putting out that the ambassador was homosexual as if this somehow made this less of a crime. It's a very, very strange thing. So you'd have to look at homophobic forces in the intelligence community. I think it takes us back to precisely that same group. So you mentioned the National Security Agency, or should I say Google. You mentioned Google refusing to take down this stupid, scurrilous film. They have merged practically with the NSA, as you pointed out. And let's not forget, Dan Senior, who is now one of the top advisors to the Romney campaign. Dan Senior is the guy who tells Paul Ryan what to say, what to do on foreign policy. Dan Senior was attached to Google, I think, in a pretty high post. The other side of it that I think is important is, where does this film come from? Forget about Sam Basile. Forget about this character, Nakula, that's the same person, allegedly. This is a little fish. This is some kind of a drug pusher who's gone into a deal with the feds, and he's therefore a controlled witness.
No, he's the classic snitch that they use to put people in prison. He's a classic cutout.
Right, but he's not. This is not the essential person. The person who actually signed for the permit to make the film and put out the casting call and actually had the premises, the studio where this was done, is this other guy, Nasrallah. And Nasrallah is a Coptic Christian. The Christians of Egypt are the Copts, and he's a big Coptic activist. And then we get right to the main issue, which is he's part of this thing called the Islamophobia Network. And this has been written up. There's a study of this by the Center for American Progress. Just look up Islamophobia Network, and you'll get all the names of these people. A lot of people would know Pamela Geller. She's sort of the chairwoman of this thing. It's international. They have Geert Wilders in Holland, a racist politician who just lost the elections at the beginning of last week. And they have something called Stop the Islamization of America, SIOA. And then they have another one called, and this is funny, Stop the Islamization of Nations, SION. So Zion, same difference, I guess. But you can see what this is. This is a group of people, I think, motivated by hatred, right? They're Islamophobic, but they're Islamophobic with a very definite agenda. And one of the people in this group, the thing that makes this most important, is that John Bolton appears at their rallies, right? They had a rally. This was the group that put up a big fight about this mosque near Ground Zero, near the former World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan in August and September of 2010. They were feeling their oats. They had a big conference. Nasrallah was a speaker, the Copt who essentially made the movie, and then Ambassador Bolton, right, or Secretary Bolton. Now, Bolton is the guy who would probably be Secretary of State for Romney. So he's meshed with these scurrilous individuals in the Islamophobia network. So I think that's pretty clear, right, that you can look at it and say this movie or trailer or whatever it is a production of the Romney campaign. They did this. And I think it would be important for media to delve into this more, because it's a real scandal. Otherwise, all of the other rioting and stuff is either spontaneous, because there is this capability to get these things going in a spontaneous way, or it's the CIA or British or NATO networks saying let's go out in the streets. Now, a couple of things that could be at work here. Since the person involved making the movie against Muhammad is a Coptic Christian, this sets up something really serious for Egypt, right? Coptic Christians are about 10% of the population of Egypt. If you get some kind of an explosion there, that could become really, really bloody and really, really ugly, and that would destabilize Egypt. That would essentially be a civil war in Egypt, and that may be what these Anglo-American lunatics are looking for. The other thing, which I think is extremely important, is you have to remember that Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Bahrain and Kuwait and Oman and probably Jordan and Morocco also, the monarchies of the Arab world, these are reactionary monarchies, absolute monarchies, but especially Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and maybe Qatar, but that group, the Gulf, they are on the verge of revolution. And this would be a real revolution. This would not be a fake color revolution, a fake Arab Spring that doesn't change anything.
Sure.
Remember, a revolution means an institutional change. You overthrow a monarchy, that's a revolution. You end slavery, that's a revolution, right? But in this case, they probably have both, right? They have household slavery as well as absolute monarchy. One of the effects of changing the subject is to help the Saudi royal house, frankly. As long as people are running around saying freedom and democracy, human rights, that's really bad for the Saudi monarchy, right? That puts the tremendous pressure on them, as well as on these fakers in Bahrain, right? The royal family there, and then the ones in Qatar, right, who do Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera, right, trumpets human rights and democracy to the world, and that's an absolute monarchy with no election.
Let me just stop you. And CNN's had their own producers quit and say when they're in Qatar and they're machine gunning men, women, and children, CNN will not let that go on the news with little CIA Anderson Cooper, the twit. But let's just stop. But let me inject this.
To finish the point, just the idea is these countries, these monarchies use anti-Israeli, anti-U.S. as a way to keep themselves in power. In other words, if I'm out there demonstrating against the House of Saud, that's bad for the House of Saud. But what they can say now is go out and demonstrate against the U.S. Of course, go out, those infidels, they're no good. This is a way to relieve the tremendous pressure building up on the Saudi monarchy and these crazy absolute monarchies in these Gulf Emirates.
No, I agree with you. And this is my next point. We've got to get into the economy, Tarpley. I really want to get your take on that, Doc. Is that people ask why the West helped trigger some of the first parts of the Arab Spring. That was because with their Google predictive programming, they admit that they know when dollar devaluation globally causes food prices to go up, where people are making $2 a day on average, and 60% of their money goes to food. You're not just now hungry, you're starving. That's going to cause unrest, so they want to trigger it to try to direct it. And so that's why they've tried to have it be a Sunni-based, Saudi Arabian-backed takeover and have it be sectarian revolution instead of economic revolution. Do you agree with that statement?
The reason the price of oil goes up and the reason the price of food goes up is speculation, speculation, speculation.
Which is dollar devaluation.
No, it's not the same thing. It's direct speculation in these markets using derivatives.
Sure, but the QEs has also made prices go up globally. That's not debated.
Nobody's willing to admit. None of the people writing in these financial newspapers.
Well, I don't care if they don't admit it. There is inflation caused by the monetization of debt.
Yeah, but the main reason those prices are going up is because of credit derivatives and other derivatives that are used.
Yeah, but because dollars aren't worth anything, everybody's rushing into farmland and food and all that. That's also compounding it.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the main thing.
Okay, but listen, let's not argue about little bitty points. Get into the economy. Where is it globally? Okay, go ahead. Where is the economy worldwide right now with this announcement of unlimited QE?
Yeah, again, I think for the average person, a certain amount of inflation is a good thing. I think optimum inflation for the U.S. right now would be 5 to 7%. We've got the American people crushed by $1 trillion of consumer debt, crushed by $1 trillion of...
So you like the Federal Reserve policy of...
No, I just think this emphasis on inflation gets nobody anywhere. This is a sort of an Austrian school red herring.
Well, I agree that it's not going to be that much inflation because the money's being transferred to elites and to buy up bad paper.
It's being hoarded, right? We know there's a capital strike. There's a capital strike where the American corporations are hoarding a couple of $1 trillion, which they refuse to invest. How about a nice tax on undistributed profits to give them
Why don't these crazy corporations invest and get people going? Do they think they're really going to get out of a violent revolution in this country and people rioting? I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, they should be investing in productive investment, plant and equipment, new jobs, new technology, but they don't do this. Now, let's look at this QE. You got to imagine the world economy, or let's say the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy is the victim of a vampire attack, or we might want to say a zombie attack. And the zombie attack in 2007, 2008, again, was done with derivatives, collateralized debt obligations, credit default swaps, these kinds of things. And this is also what's used to drive up the raw material prices. Since then, we've had Count Dracula has had his fangs in our throat, and he's sucking our blood. And the answer that the Federal Reserve has had is what you'd call a hot money stimulus. And it just says, we're going to flood the banking system with cheap money, 0% in most cases.
All right, Webster, stay there. We got to go to break. It's a hard break. You know you're on the Genesis Network. We got to go to break right here, a network break. We'll be right back with Webster Griffin Tarpley on the other side to break down exactly what's happening with QE Unlimited. He's the vampire slayer. There he is, Von Helsing. Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about 1.5 years ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of longevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals, but the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com. Going back to Webster, Webster, please continue in this short segment and the one little segment coming up. Then Max Kaiser's joining us to get into the economy in depth. You were making the point about the vampire has been sucking on us lovingly, telling us that we've got a vampire on us because we're bad people. But if we'll just give the vampire more blood, he'll fix everything. So this vampire is a black hole. No amount of blood will ever satisfy the undead. Well, as you said, you coined the term, I think, zombie banks 10 years ago, or I think that's attributed to you. Zombies are quite popular now, so maybe it's fitting we're ruled by zombie banks, Webster.
Look, the Count Dracula metaphor goes like this. We were attacked by Count Dracula the vampire in 2007, 2008, and ever since then, he's got his fangs in our throat. Now, along comes Bernanke, and Bernanke says, oh, let's give a transfusion to the poor victim. Except they don't give the transfusion directly into the victim, us, the economy. They give the transfusion to Count Dracula. So they say, we'll pipe the blood in through Count Dracula, and we'll make his fangs go into reverse, and that blood will then arrive into the victim. It doesn't work because of the black hole, because of what you just said. The mass of kited, bankrupt derivatives in the zombie banks, in the too big to fail money center banks of Wall Street, absorbs all the liquidity. Or they take hot money. That's what the Fed is generating. The hot money flees overseas. It goes to the hottest speculative market, right? Be it Kuala Lumpur or Warsaw or whatever it is. It flies there. So this is what also brings down the the dollar. The dollar is weakened to some degree because of the effects of the
So where
system.
is it headed? Do you agree with Kaiser that we're going to have a huge implosion by next April?
Let's see. Let's just go through what the alternatives are. What could you do to fight this depression? One is have an immediate deflationary crash, right? That's what Ron Paul wanted. He said, let's go back to the good old days of the crash of 1920 that brought the world Mussolini. I'm sorry, that's not a good one. Then we have a consumer-led Keynesian stimulus, which is pretty much what the stimulus, right? The Obama-Pelosi stimulus of 2009
Payoffs to all their friends.
That's better. That has some effect. But ultimately, as soon as
because Rachel Maddow does go out and buy some pants and things like that. I mean,
but there were things. The main thing in there that was good was aid to the states so that the states could maintain their payrolls of policemen, firemen, teachers, and people that we need to keep human civilization going. But unfortunately, that doesn't get you an economic recovery. Then the third possibility is this hot money, which is what the Fed has been doing. I want the fourth possibility. My fourth possibility is this. Take that QE3, take that money, and it's practically 0%, and use that to buy bonds from American states that want to build hard infrastructure.
But that would actually build America up. We can't do that.
That would, yeah, but that's what you want. That's what we should be campaigning for. Not to abolish the Fed. No, don't abolish the Fed. We
nationalize it.
Nationalize it.
Well, yeah, then take the power of the purse back into Congress and then give that to the states, yeah.
It's not even the power of the purse, right? The power of the purse is in the Treasury. We need a national bank, and the national bank...
Yeah, but Webster, the Congress controls the power of the purse, as you know.
Yeah, and that's the way this should be. In other words, the Treasury is one thing under congressional...
But see, that doesn't let them pick winners and losers. They'd rather rule a pile of skulls than live in paradise.
You'd be picking winners and losers in this sense. You'd be saying 0% credit does not go to zombie banks, hedge fund hyenas anymore. We've tried it. For the past 4 years, Bernanke has been offering...
Oh, no, they won't even give the federal contracts to small businesses, and the law says they should. Just stay there, Webster. One more minute. I want you to have 5 more minutes to finish up your statement on the economy.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
Webster, I know you're trying to get out solutions here. And I got to say, if you're going to have quantitative easing, it should go to the states. And it should go to 0% loans to the public instead of foreign banks that have hijacked our country. I mean, what you're saying is true. I cannot disagree with you. You're 100% right. And I want to have you back up. You know, things are so important right now. If you want to come back on, I'm taking off Friday to take my son bird hunting. I promised him forever. But if you'd like to come on sometime next week or maybe even Wednesday or Thursday or something, we'll see. You know, to continue just on solutions. We did that a few weeks ago for an hour and a half. People really enjoyed that talk on InfoWars Nightly News. But I understand you're trying to put out solutions here, but talking to you privately, I mean, I really want your view on this. Geopolitically, where is the world right now? I mean, I see all the parallels everywhere. Everybody's going into conflict because of the economic depression. I mean, where is the world? We are in a global depression, or is it a global recession? And how bad is the danger going into next year? I asked you the time frame on further collapse, and you came up with solutions. Look, I get you want to give us solutions. I want your prognosis on the economy.
The reason I do this is because doomsayers are a dime a dozen, right? Every little newsletter has some prediction of the end of the world.
But you're not a dime a dozen. I want what you think.
People want solutions. That's the whole world history depends on getting out of a depression, and that takes solutions. I would say right now we've got the QE3 from Bernanke coming into play. On the European side, we've got Draghi and his pledge to provide support for Euro bonds. You know, there's always a danger when you go into September, October, and the transition from the third quarter to the fourth quarter, that can always blow up under these depression conditions. But let's just, where are we in a broader sense? You're in this 3-part process, right? Depression, dictatorship, world war. And we've got symptoms of all three all around us. It's not coming in a neat, 1, 2, 3. These parts, the phases interpenetrate, unfortunately. So we've got to break out of this. One of the effects of the depression part is that the Anglo-American ruling class is more insane than they usually are, and they're looking for utopian solutions. In particular, I would say the consultative conference, essentially the Friends of Syria that met in Tehran, Iran, about a month ago with 30 countries representing really more than half the world, right? Russia, China, India, Indonesia, Pakistan, and Iran, Syria, all kinds of countries. The isolation of Iran has not worked, and we've just had the non-aligned conference in Tehran with 130, 135 countries coming together in Tehran and talking about world affairs in various ways. The isolation of Iran has not worked. For the Anglo-American ruling class, they would have to say maybe they've come to the point of diminishing returns with the color revolution strategy. Maybe it's time to go back to the war strategy, the mad dog, neocon, fascist, aggressor stance that we had under Bush Cheney. And again, all those guys are grouped around Obama. They're grouped around Romney.
They're grouped around both of them, bud. It's like a Don King fight.
No. If you look at these individuals, the neocons, the hardcore ideological neocons, they're with Romney, not with Obama. They're not with Obama. Look at them. Again, you got John Bolton, you've got Dan Senior, you've got Robert Kagan, Robert Joseph.
Well, that's what Pachenik says. He says if they get back in, they're going to stage new 9/11s.
Yeah, if Romney comes in on the 20th of January, he may invade Syria on February 1st. I mean, you'll have 100 days of war with Romney. A vote for Romney is a vote for Netanyahu, his bosom buddy since 1976.
All right, we're going to have to talk about this next time, Webster. We'll set you up to break more of this down. We'll be right back with Max Kaiser. Thank you, Dr. Tarpley.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.